Welcome back to the Citizen TV Town Hall. And of course, our Mashirima Kapombe, just before the break, gave us some wonderful insights into the Nyumba Kumi system in Tanzania, how it works and how effective it is today. Well, our audience here are keen to also get their questions and thoughts in on this particular topic. And I must let you know we have quite an interesting mix of an audience here today. We've got security guards, we've got bouncers, we've got business owners, club owners, and we've got ordinary Kenyans who heard about this debate and decided they want to come and participate as well. And want to give them a chance now to ask the people here on the panel a couple of questions. So let's immediately get into that. Josephine, I think if you can bring the mic, let's start with this gentleman right here and get his feedback. And of course, you can talk to us, 22422, once again, our SMS line, and use the hashtag Monday Report. Gentlemen, please introduce yourself and your question, please.
Thank you so much. My name's Robert Odhiambo. I'm the General Manager, Wallets Club and Lounge, both in Komarox and Utawala. Swali langu zinaenda, nataka kuuliza serikali mpango gani, kwa sababu tukiangalia mambo za tax waga zinafanyika kwa mahotels and clubs. Serikali iko na mpango gani kuzuia hii attack, kwa sababu as managers we are also the central of attraction, kwa sababu saa zingine unaweza pata I move from Komarok to Utawala and unaweza pata maybe wahalifu wanafikiri nimebeba pesa, so in the way unapata nimeatakiwa. Hiyo ndio swali langu.
Thank you. Good question. Let's get another one. At the back there was a question, I believe, from a lady there. Let's also get that one. Pale nyuma tafadhali. Na naomba uanze kwa kujitambulisha. Asante sana.
My name's Elizabeth Nyambura from Dagoretti South. I would like to ask if the security will go to training. What of Nyumba Kumi, and some does not know to read, not even to look at the ID, not even the numbers. Thanks.
Okay. Dr. Ndemo, I hope you've caught that. Not yet. Naomba arudie tafadhali. Hebu rudia hiyo swali so that Dr. Ndemo gets it. If the guards are to be trained.
Yeah, what of Nyumba Kumi?
What the implementers of Nyumba Kumi pia wapate.
Sindio, wengine hawajui kusoma, pia hata majina kwa ID hawajui.
Asante sana. Aha, okay. Yeah. I think you're saa tumeshika. Let's get another two more. We cross over. I think itabidi upate mtu mmoja hapa na pale pia, and we will leave it at that.
Thank you. My name is Isaac G.M. Andabwa, the National General Secretary for Kenya National Private Security Workers Union, also a director on the Private Security Regulation Authority. I think I wanted to get the point clear from the chairman of KISIA and also the police spokesperson. I think your two statements are contradicting, because from where I am, I'm aware the decision to arm the private security guards was already passed. This was through the National Security Council, which is started and approved, and again the National Advisory Committee, which include the ministers. Therefore, I think from the statement of the chair of the KISIA and from the earlier position of the spokesperson of the police, you are contradicting and misleading this meeting.
Although I believe he is the one who spoke about the law.
Two.
Go ahead.
Two, in the context of the same act, that is section 50. It also gives the CS for Interior also to do some amendments. And I'm aware we have had rules to govern the regulations, which are being forwarded to they are passed the AG's office, and they are almost being considered for the regulations. So I think as much as we say that the cards are not going to be armed, we must go back to the parliament. It doesn't arise. The plane has taken already off, is preparing to land, and that's the truth.
So in a nutshell, he's clearly that has been well received here.
Also, as a private security officer myself, there is no way, and I want also to inform Mr. Okeo, the spokesperson said, arising situations, the emergence in terms of the security, and maybe from more singular to complex, more complex and sophisticated attacks, we must learn from the past mistakes and correct ourselves. There is no way you can tell me the private security complement the national security agents. That is the citation of the new actor. And then if the private security doesn't protect himself and he purports to protect a client or property, that one is past tense. So in the current scenario, where where we have a lot of challenges in terms of security, we must now come up with a different way of handling insecurity. And maybe to conclude,
yes,
even the issue of the landlords and the houses, we need to do something about that, because we need to know our neighbor. We need to be responsible Kenyans, because security begins from ourselves.
Fair enough, fair enough. While you take the mic, Josephine, to the back there, I think it's time for a few responses. Bwana, we know you can clear a lot of the feedback is coming your way. Come in.
Sir. Before I answer him, I would want you to give me a very brief opportunity to analyze shortly what you've seen in Tanzania. It's important that we understand the history of our countries. At independence, Kenya took a capitalist direction. And capitalist direction is more individualistic. It's God for us all and everyone for himself. Tanzania took a socialist approach, which is a collective approach. And that is why you see they are now concerned after the coming in of multipartyism, where now people want to talk about their rights and so on. There may be challenges. So it is important to understand it from that aspect. The issue that Andabwa is raising, Andabwa, I am an officer of the law. My duty is to enforce laws and regulations as they are. I remember what I said is that before 72, 71, as police, we were not armed. We were just using rungus. But with the coming in of bank robberies and so on, there was need for the first president to prevail upon government that the policemen be armed, and that is how it started. And I said, given the complexities that are coming in, especially on attacks, there may be consideration to have security guards armed. And this follows a consideration, and that is, I said, that is why most likely there is that demand and interest to have security officers, security guards armed. But I go back to what Okeyo said. He said that Article 53 currently prohibits security officers from being armed unless an amendment is made. The way you are saying, Section 50 allows the minister to amend the regulation. So what you should know is that even when NSAC passes that there would be need to arm security guards, the implementation may not take place until the amendment is done. It is not an Okeyo's issue, it is nobody's issue. Secondly, there are complexities when it comes to arming of individuals. On our point as police officers, we would want to limit as much arming of individuals as possible. And I want you to know that even when it will be allowed that security officers can be armed, it will not be done haphazardly. It will go through the private, the civilian licensing board. Remember, us today as police officers, we must account for every bullet that we spend. Even if an officer uses a bullet to scare, immediately the officer in charge of that police station informs the inspector general.
They have to report
that they have used a bullet. And that is why Okeyo told you that there would be challenges prompting. It is not a matter of superiority. I know very many people like carrying guns. I can tell you having a gun is not safety in itself. It may be a security risk. Some of us can tell you, despite the fact that we have those privileges, maybe for the last 10 years, given that I've just been a spokesperson, I'm not involved in active operations, you may be shocked that I've never carried my gun from the armory to date. It's not a superiority complex issue. Okay. It's a matter of securing our country and securing people and saying, you are in the first line, and therefore what can we do? We can even opt to ensure that in areas where we think there are risks, we put officers on standby to ensure that you are safe. So what we are saying is there is no competition here. It is to my interest as a police officer that Kenyans are secured appropriately. And if arming you would make Kenyans be more secured, why not?
Okay.
So that is one. But I think it is important that I finish with Odhiambo.
That's what I was going to ask you. Plans
who
for
talked about plans
to
protect club owners. And the most important thing, never carry a lot of money with you, or don't make people believe that you have money. And that is why these security companies have been given responsibility even to shift to carry money. Securica carries money. Give Securica some business. Don't be greedy to eat everything. Give Securica some business. Let them be coming to pick your money. Currently, they are using our colleagues in administration police. They move together, they collect money, they take it to the bank. You are safer. Don't carry money. And equally, we cannot arm everyone. We cannot say because club owners have problems, we arm them. But I know individuals have always applied for civilian firearm, and they have always been armed. There's a lady who talked about, is a question to Ndemo.
Yes, which I wanted.
But I want us to understand one thing. There is nobody called Nyumba Kumi. Hatuwezi sema fulani ni Nyumba Kumi. Kuna guards ndio, they have been trained. But there is no individual called Nyumba Kumi. Nyumba Kumi is a terminology that we borrowed from the Tanzanian system of people trying to know their neighbors. And you've heard Tanzania saying, sasa siku hizi si hata Nyumba Kumi. There are now about 50 houses. We have systems of domesticating community policing, and more so on Nyumba Kumi.
Thank you for
and I believe that very soon we'll be in a position to take even one of the estates, maybe like Umoja. Instead of doing it all over the country haphazardly, we can take one estate like Umoja and come up with a sample of what our Nyumba Kumi can be in terms of domestication
fair
on how
point.
we want our things done.
And thank you for introducing Dr. Ndemo. Dr. Ndemo, briefly, just respond to what that lady had to ask.
Yeah, although maybe I'll also mention something about the Tanzanian model. Nyumba Kumi frequently are undergoing training only in as much as their functions are concerned. Because the model of Nyumba Kumi we have here is different from the Tanzanian one. The Tanzanian one, you heard of Balozi. Balozi is simply a political representative who reports about that Kijiji, what is happening. You cannot have it here even one day. Because I'll ask you which party will the Balozi come from, and then it will land into problems. So they are undergoing training to teach them or just educate them on what their functions are. I want to tell you, the audience here, that the system we have of Nyumba Kumi, I can say without any fear of contradiction that is the best in the world.
The best in the world?
Yes.
What proof?
Because there is. Because it is a completely multi-sectoral. It involves everybody. That is number one. Number two, when we talk of Nyumba Kumi, we don't mean the committee members. Nyumba Kumi, if for instance, if I may use this as an example, if we were to have to form a Nyumba Kumi here, we'll elect officials, 10 or 15, just for the purpose of leadership. But all of us are in Nyumba Kumi, and the responsibility, we share that responsibility.
By the time you say that the Nyumba Kumi you have in Kenya is the best in the world,
yes,
the results of that. Give us an example of something tangible in terms of results that would justify
I want
your
to tell you
assertion.
this. Because even in terms of the functions they do, where they have worked, it's not that Nyumba Kumi has not worked entirely, that it has failed. In some places it is working very well, and the functions involve education, health, famine, crime, negative cultures, and so on. And the narratives. That is their function. That's why I say it's the best, because we have had international meetings where everybody, including the big brothers, would like to know what is taking place here. Now, the one that they have in Tanzania is basically reporting that who is the new person. I want to tell you, here in Nairobi, Nyumba Kumi here in Nairobi have exactly what is happening there in Tanzania.
Across,
They have registers. They want to check who are the new tenants. Now, the only thing that the committee that I was a member of was not given sufficient funding, because you know public finance is also limited, so that we can take the message everywhere. But I want to tell you, just as I finish, that we have about 400,000 Nyumba Kumi clusters of about 15 people in this country. Some are doing very well, some are not.
Some are doing very well, some are not. I'm coming to each of you to get a response to that, but there was a question at the back there that I want to hear. Two of them actually, and then I come and allow my other panelists to weigh in on the various topics around security that we are talking about today. Go ahead. And
my name is Robert
introducing yourself.
Otieno, representing bar owners. I need to understand, Mr. Demo, when Nyumba Kumi came to Kenya, I don't understand. Did you guys inform Kenyans about Nyumba Kumi? Because I can simply shift from where I live. I am living under an agency and go and get an house in another agency, and they will not care where I am from or what I do. So I don't really understand what he's saying, that it is working very well in Kenya.
So
and
you have not seen an example of Nyumba Kumi yourself or people you talk to?
Myself, where I live, people I talk to.
Is there anybody here who has seen an example of Nyumba Kumi, just by a show of hands, in their community? Just raise the hands high so that we can see. Okay, wengine?
Exactly,
no.
That is what I mean.
Okay.
The next question is...
And last question, please, because of time. Go ahead.
The last question is, we have, this is for the spokesman, we have private guards. We have people that have private guards, because me as a manager, they come and then they tell me this is my private guard. I really want to understand, what is the qualifications? What is the procedure? How is it that is making it so hard for us, for the security, to have arms rather than them? Thank you.
Okay, I hope the spokesperson has gotten that clearly. Let's get one more on that side. Maybe a lady's voice. Pale kwa kona, tafadhali. Either of the two ladies, any of them, whoever gets the mic fastest, can ask their question. I think there was a hand behind you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm called Cleanscute
Naomba
Sugrion.
usimame tafadhali tukuone. Asante sana.
I'm called Cleanscute Sugrion from Western. I just have two questions to ask to the second spokesman. I want to ask this: why is it that security officers, they need taller people than short people, whereby they now shorter people like us, we are being denied that chance to get as a security guards? For example, I can be shorter, but I know how to guard somebody and secure somebody well than taller person. Second thing I want to ask, I want to know very well and clearly that this Nyumba Kumi, what is the meaning of the Nyumba Kumi? Because where I live, I usually see most of the women saying, I am among those Nyumba Kumi, I can help you. But they are not helping me in any way round. Even if maybe mtu anaweza niibia, nikienda kumripotia, there is nothing she can take, but you ananiambia tu, I'm a member of Nyumba Kumi. I want just to know the meaning of Nyumba Kumi. Hiyo ni mfano wa ukweli? Yes. Umetupea? Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Mlikuwa mnataka kupiga makofi? Simuendelee basi. Asante sana. Josephine, shikilia hapo. Bwana okay, you've been addressed, and I want you to talk about Nyumba Kumi as well. And Tabitha, go ahead. Somebody asked a question about height. I know it might not be related to the discussion today, but she feels that that's what she wants to know, and that's what the town hall is all about.
I have various institutions have different entry requirements, and the Act now also clearly sets out the age, entry, height. Even if you went to the disciplined forces, even if you went to NYS, to my brother Owino, to Kenya Defense Forces, there's height. While we don't discriminate as such, there is a level of height that even you, if you saw and you are in our shoes, you would clearly say it's not doable. But I tell you...
On what grounds do you make such a judgment? The law or...
No. As it is, over the years, this is a sector that has self-regulated. the act has just come. This is the first time that we worked with our partners, with the citizens, with the players, to lobby a bill that created the act. And they will tell you that the act stipulates some minimum height requirements for entry.
Okay.
Please allow me to just also respond on one issue.
Go ahead.
Andabwa raised. And I said, I was speaking as the national chair of the employers. And I said, we support the intention to arm security guards. After all, they are our employees. If they are hit fatally, the WIBA Insurance Act, I am an employer myself also. So my WIBA is run down. Insurance is very expensive. Where also the client loses property, the contractual and public liability covers that we take are run down. But there is what is called the moment of excitement and the reality. The reality as it is today is that it is illegal for private security guards to be armed.
Contrary to what he had.
It is the reality. And I am saying that as a person who has read the law, Section 53, he is carrying the act. I have also, let me also now digress a little. Please just bear with me, Wahiga, because this is is an aspect I need the security officers to see. We are their employers. There is no, they are not our enemies. On this, we are together. But we are saying, can we go together following the law? The reality is that what Section 50 allows the Cabinet Secretary to do is to do regulations that go in tandem with the Act. All those bodies my brother alluded to are not superior to the Act. None of them, none at all, who veto the Act. In this Act, and very soon we will be calling on you so that we work together to lobby the amendment.
Okay. And so if anyone...
And let me just say the last one.
Mm-hmm.
I have gone to, the Private Security Regulatory Authority is a state corporation. So I am governed by the Code of Conduct of the State Corporations Act, which prohibits me also from commenting exhaustively on an issue the board has not taken a position on.
Okay.
So the board must sit to a full quorum to pronounce itself. It has a chair. I am Mr. Ndabwa's vice chair. He's my younger brother, so when he addresses me on this, he must know he's addressing his vice chair. But on this, I'm saying that is with a light touch.
Okay.
The board is yet to pronounce itself. I am very, very careful because I'm live, so that I do not say anything that purports to bind a board which has not sat to pronounce itself.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Millicent. You wanted to come in and talk about Nyumba Kumi. Go ahead.
Actually, Nyumba Kumi, there are some areas where it has worked, some areas it has not worked.
In Kenya?
In Kenya, yes.
Mm-hmm.
In Kenya.
Do you have specific examples of counties?
Specific examples, yes. Let me give an example of Kisumu County. And I can tell you that it is not the same. Because even within the county, you will find that within the county you have constituencies, and then you have the sub-counties. Then within the sub-counties, you have the wards, and then you have the villages. When Nyumba Kumi was introduced, it came with the idea, as is all the other mechanisms, because even community policing, peace committees, they are supposed to be volunteers. These are people who are not state-funded to do these functions. So yes, it was introduced, but then the sensitization was not well done. And the uptake was more towards the rural areas when it was introduced and some pockets of the urban areas. Mm-hmm. So that's why you find that there's some disparity in areas. And you will find that in areas...
Why has there been resistance in urban areas? Bearing in mind, urban areas should receive that information quickly, in terms of maybe in more compressed areas and so forth. Why the resistance?
Well, I think some people were saying it also bordered on issues of their civil liberties and their privacy, and to what degree are they supposed to be vetted, for example, because if the vetting, it was perceived as if it is a vetting. And again, the issue that is the biggest stumbling block for us is the perceptions. Kenyans
have the tendency of listening so much to rumors and picking propaganda and not questioning and not digging deeper, even though it is something that is good for you. Sometimes there can be negative side effects. And if we are not true to that and say, look, this is being introduced, some people took advantage of it where there were strong champions who understood it, because it's the same thing with community policing. The government has worked together with other stakeholders to publish guidelines on how even the committees are supposed to be set up. But some people, you find people being handpicked and then they are put there, and then they
so
start
in a sense,
colluding.
corruption finds its way into.
So it's not
what should have been
systematic. There is corruption in it, but not necessarily. If it is ad hoc, it's not speaking to the spirit of what it was meant to do. But let me give you what happened, because you wanted where it has worked.
Yes.
When we were moving towards the electioneering period, and I link this also because Nyumba Kumi was working hand in hand with the community policing and with the multi-agency coordination unit in Kisumu County under the chairmanship of the then County Commissioner Maalim, who is now, I think, the County Commissioner of Makueni. And through the County Security Intelligence Committee, the feedback coming from the grassroots is relayed, because the Nyumba Kumi and community policing work with the OCPD and the OCSS in the police stations. So they are linked to those police stations. If the information is passed, there is some level of confidentiality. But before that happens, a lot of trust building work has to happen.
Okay.
Because people need to know that they are safe and they are secure. And we saw a case where machetes were interjected. People were actually planning to go and kill others in a political rally. And because of that information done in a timely manner and a timely response, what happens if the community policing team delivers the message, and the police sometimes are not even able to arrest from the rural areas, the community policing teams, because they are part of the community, they sometimes are mandated to do arrests. They can
arrest.
Go, yes. And then they hand them over to the police. So I'm saying it's not universal. It doesn't work. It has not worked in all the places. But we can only tell you that there's been a lot of benchmarking that has been done in this country. It's not perfect. But I think we have a place to start. The issue of making this voluntary, there is no resourcing. That is why these people, some of them, become vigilantes and go rogue.
Hang on
because
there.
they're
I want
looking
to
for
bring
money.
in Tabitha as well. She's nodding quite vigorously or with a lot of enthusiasm as you speak. Can you also add in, Wayne, on what she's saying? Go ahead.
I agree with the idea of the awareness, because even in counterterrorism, we believe that unless people have awareness on what security is all about and what role they need to play, then there will always be what he mentioned, the issue of us versus them. So I think what people need to understand is that everyone has a role to play in making sure that we're secure. Everybody, the citizen, the Nyumba Kumi people, business owners, everybody has a role to play. And unless you play your role effectively and give this information in time to the relevant authorities, and that intelligence, if not captured, then becomes useless. And that is why we find, say for instance, he was mentioning about entertainment spots. So are we doing enough to protect areas where we have a lot of people going there? Are we doing enough to make sure that our matatu bus stops have enough security officers? If it comes to the issue of arming private security guards, we need to be very careful when thinking about how we set up policies to control who can get a gun. So for instance, in the United States, it's very easy for you to get a gun compared to other countries, but then their culture is different. So even as we pick these things, we need to look from other countries that are doing well. And as we take up these policies, make them tailor-made for our society, because remember, Kenya has 42 different tribes with different cultural perceptions and different ways of doing things. So as we pick these things, we need to sit down. So if we decide we're going to arm people, do we do it the US way, or do we do it the Japanese way, where everybody, before they get a gun, they have to sit for a written test, and then they have to pass a certain amount of accuracy in terms of shooting? Do we have mental health background checks before somebody gets a gun? So I think everybody has a role to play, and the most important thing is for us to know that we are on the same team. There's nothing like the government versus the private security owners versus Nyumba Kumi. No, we all have to work together, because remember, when an attack happens, it will not dictate. So if I throw a grenade in here, it won't decide, let me take the bouncer, let me take the media person. It
affects anyone who's
It
in that
affects
path.
everybody. So we all have a role to play. And unless we know that, then we will keep fighting amongst ourselves, while the other side is always very united, because they have a strong ideology that is pulling people to their side.
Okay, thank you for that. Very interesting points you've raised. Let me try and get another round of questions. Tuanze pale nyuma. Tafadhali. Yes, there's a gentleman there who has really raised his hand. Please introduce yourself and then give us your point.
Okay, thank you. I'm Bernard Injendi, former Fargo Limited. I have two questions. The first question is going to Nyumba Kumi. The Nyumba Kumi initiative.
Dr. Ndemo, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Swali langu ni je, Nyumba Kumi initiative inatumiwa kama mbinu mbadala ya kuchanga pesa ya matanga? Je, hilo ndilo jukumu kubwa la Nyumba Kumi? Enda kule mashinani utajijulia. Swali number 2 linaenda kwa Dr. Okeo. Dr. Okeo, as the chairman of the Private Security Regulatory Authority, how sure are you, I stress this,
Vice Chair.
Is the Vice Chair.
Vice Chair.
And is also the chairman of KISIA.
Yes,
Let's
go ahead.
consider the two positions. How sure is Mr. Okeo? How sure are you that you are not illegally holding the positions you are holding, considering the terms and the conditions of the company you run? And the first term and condition is you pay below the minimum wage. Kindly, Mr. Okeo, be open to us, because we want to ensure that this plan reaches to where it's supposed to be. Bernard Injendi, thank you very much.
Okay.
Just to add on, just before we proceed, very urgent.
Moja tafadhali.
Moja
of time.
Ni kweli. Jina langu ni Walter Omengo. Ni cha muhimu sana. The gentleman just next to you. Why do we create laws? It's very important for us to realize that once you realize why you create a law, then you will notice that whatever it is you are saying is an act of parliament that can be revised at any time. You see, we are living in an arena whereby we are like an absconded ejaculation.
Okay.
Who suffers a fatal fate.
Please.
The last one. We should not be economic with the truth. Like the police commissioner. You are truly economical with the truth. And Wahiga, you have just been passing us. Let us be very realistic.
Okay.
That when police commissioner,
I had asked
the
you
police
for
spokesperson.
One question.
Kindly let us know which material are we going to use to defend ourselves in the event of bomb kila mahali, bomb kila mahali. Then you are telling us that we need to build
fair enough
a fence around ourselves.
Thank you. I believe he has had. Thank you. I'll have to ask
one.
you to pause there.
I have a solution to all this. Corruption is if we can devise a method of countering corruption, that is the mother of every other thing. Even if we were to discuss here for the next 3 years, we will not get a solution, not unless we cure corruption.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your point. Let's get 1 point there. Maybe just give that gentleman in the middle. He has really been waiting, and one here, and then we'll give them a chance to respond.
Thank you very much. My name is Seth Atela, working for Homeland Bouncers. My question to Mr. Police Spokesman. Kwamba mimi nafanya kwa kilabu kwenye watu wanaingia wengi. And again, mna limit kupeana guns kwa private sectors security. Wakikuja pale kwa kilabu, I'll disarm him. Because akiingia pale ndani atakunywa alewa, akishalewa ata misbehave na hiyo gun yake. Then these days terrorist iko juu, wanataka kwenye watu wako wengi. Mimi nimemdisarm, niweka hiyo gun yake kule. Me as a person, I don't have a gun. Yeah? Kindly muwe flexible, tuwe trained, tujue venye tutachunga wananchi wetu.
Okay. Thank you for your question. Though, to be quite fair to the police spokesperson, it's not the police who are standing in the way of private guards having guns. Just to be fair to them. Thank you for that. Josephine, please let's get a question on this side, and then we will allow the panel. My goodness. Okay, we'll come to you. Just get one on this side. Just to be fair, at the corner there, there's a young man. Pale, wacha tupate sauti ya kijana pia aongee kidogo. Thank you. Please introduce yourself and then ask your question.
My name is Derek Chris Munene.
Please stand.
Oh, Derek Chris Munene, fourth year communication major. My question is to Tabitha. Are there databases whereby we can be able to create a system to enable the tracking of these gangsters who are so-called criminals? Like, can there be a system whereby we can be able to track the activities, in that we can prevent these activities that happen in the terms of bombing in malls and also the CBD, which is also not safe? And if so, when it comes to tracing, how sure are we that this tracing reaches the security interiors for the government officials, that is? Can they be able to reach this information to be able to prevent future attacks? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's get some responses now. Who can begin? Okay, Dr. Ndemo, go ahead.
Yeah, let me respond to the issue of Nyumba Kumi collecting money for funerals. Those are fraudsters. Because the structure of Nyumba Kumi officials does not have the position of treasurer. In fact, it has the chairman and secretary. That's all. And there is nothing money in the operations of Nyumba Kumi. So if somebody comes around to collect and say he's collecting on behalf of Nyumba Kumi, that is a fraudster. Report to the police.
Okay. Point noted. Tabitha, you want to respond to what?
And before I respond to his question, I would like first of all to say that from a researcher's perspective, I think we should not think that getting guns is a solution to everything about security. Because remember, the more you arm people in the society, the more people have things they can use against you. So I think it is important that we get rid of this notion that giving everybody a gun is going to be a solution, or having, say, if we have, I think we have 750,000 guns in the population right now. Even if we got 3 million guns in our population by next month, that does not guarantee us security, both internally from things like cattle rustling, armed robberies, and even terrorism. Because if you look at terrorism itself, there's different ways in which terrorists can attack. So you might be standing there with a gun, say outside a hotel like Kempinski, but I will come in as a suicide bomber. So your gun will still be there, but then have you protected yourself against suicide bombings? So if you have a gun and I want to come and take people here hostage for ransom, so I can fund terrorist activities, is that gun really the solution? So I think we need to think of security more as a holistic issue and not just a solution. As guns, yeah.
There's no silver bullet, one solution that sort of sorts everything.
It is not.
Multiple approaches.
Yes.
Spokesperson, there's a young man there who had...
let me answer his question. So there's a lot of research that has been done in terms of different categories of crime. So we have databases on things like smuggling of weapons into countries, transnational crime, money laundering. There's all this sort of information out there. And sometimes the gap becomes helping to bridge the gap between the public and the private institutions. That there's somebody who had mentioned that. So we have all this information out there, but then sometimes we're not able to get it to the relevant people on time, and then that makes it very difficult to prevent these attacks.
And one of the relevant people is sitting next to you.
Yes. So people will have information about, say, a number of people that have been seen in a certain neighborhood looking suspicious, but then if you do not get that information to the police on time, then it just becomes just noise, information that has not been used. And when you talk about tracing to get security, there's ways in which even Kenya has been able to get information from the dark net and all these encrypted channels of information used by terrorists and other criminals, and sometimes the government gets that information and is able to use it to foil attacks. So for instance, in Kenya, as much as we have been seeing more attacks happening, there's still so many attacks that are foiled by law enforcement that we don't get to hear about.
Okay, so what is happening behind the scenes?
Yes.
Spokesperson, come in. You might want to respond to what, especially there's one question at the back about a young person who asked, what are we supposed to do? If there are bombs there, if there's this, how do we defend ourselves? And you can respond to anything else that had been asked as well. Go ahead.
I think what we are talking about is security and safety. What police has been entrusted with is security and safety of the people we have within the jurisdiction of our country, whether the citizens or our visitors. But I would go back slightly and say that arming yourself with a gun may not be a solution. Just like she has put it, you may be standing there with a gun and somebody uses a different method. But practically, from my experience, for the number of years I've worked, I think if it is my wish, I would limit guns in the hands of civilians.
Here you're
because
speaking
of
as a
issues
winner,
of,
not as a
no, as an individual.
As an individual now, not as a spokesperson.
It's not a popularity contest. It's from the security base. I would limit. And I can tell you in this house, I rarely carry my gun with me because I know it's not a solution to my security and to my safety. A number of times we have security officers killed and they have their guns with them. It's not a solution. And let me tell you, having that gun with you puts you at more risk, because another person who wants that gun will come for it. So let us not think that by having guns, then we are going to have a solution. But most importantly, I want to correct some notion here. According to me, there's nobody called Nyumba Kumi.
And you've said that this will be the second or third time you're saying that tonight.
The Nyumba Kumi initiative is just an initiative that is supposed to embrace community policing. And community policing is a matter of you as individuals policing yourselves. I want to give you a very simple example. You can live in an estate, let's say Umoja. You can decide within yourselves on how you want to police yourselves within that estate. For example, you can say we are only going to have one entry into this estate. And you agree, and you say we are only going to have one entry. Secondly, we are going to say that we are going to register all of us. We will have a small computer at the gate. We will train our guards. Every member of each family will be known. The cars that get into that estate will be known, so that we prevent a situation of people stealing our cars from the parking. We may sit and say, every day people are stealing our cars from our parking. How do we resolve the theft of cars from the parking? You can even decide to say that for every vehicle that is leaving the estate, or for every visitor that is coming to the estate, the owners of the particular house could have notified the gate that we are having visitors coming. So if you decide as members of a particular estate on how you want to manage yourselves, that is what we call form of domestication.
Okay.
It will be your Nyumba Kumi. Even if you want to call it Nyumba Hamsini, even if you want to call it Nyumba Nene, you see. But what is most important is how do we secure ourselves within the estate of where we live. Just like you go to a building, you are a guard in a building, and you've been given instructions. Everybody coming in must register, and you must be asked, which office are you going to? And that office may be called if they're aware that you are going to that particular place. So community policing is just an initiative within yourselves as individuals. How do you manage your security on where you and your safety where you live? And Nyumba Kumi is simply. So if somebody is what brought problems is when people became members of officials of Nyumba Kumi, they thought, many people think that if you're a policeman, those stories of zamani ya kusema ukiolewa na polisi atatoka nje aende pale kwa barabara asimamishe gari apate pesa anunue unga. Sini hivyo ndio tulisema. So if you have that kind of a notion, ati mimi sasa nimekuwa member of Nyumba Kumi, I'll go out there and start threatening people. It's my time to eat. It's not true. That is not how, because we have situations where, let me tell you, we have very interesting scenarios where people can come to you and tell you, unajua kuna muhindi pale anafanyanga magendo, nadhani ukienda huko utapata nini? Utapata pesa tugawe. These are common things that people do every day. And practically, if you're a policeman of my age and my experience, you see things differently. So I think it is important that we learn these things and we know how they happen, and don't think that
I'll have to ask
that
you
will be
to
a solution.
Hang on there. Thank you for that, because I need to get two final questions. Where is Josephine? This lady has really been asking to give a question, and one there, and then I'll give each of you final comments. So I'm coming back to you. Let's start with her, please. Short, please. Go ahead.
My name is Eunice Kuto. I'm working with KK Gadaworld. My question or my opinion has been tackled by Tabitha at large, but I want to say this. We are looking the security, this issue of security, as if we are only issuing guns to security guards. What we want is, we want to bridge that gap between us and the military, so that we have that closeness. Let them introduce even gadgets to share information, so that whenever we are in the assignments, if a guard sees something small or suspicious, he can even press a button, and the nearby policemen could rush to the scene and protect.
So it's not just about guns.
Yeah, it's not like about guns only. There are so many things. Arming the guards does not mean providing guards only. There are so many issues, so many. So let's not look in that perspective.
Okay.
The last question is to Bwana Okeo and the two of you. I'm sorry to say that. My question is, the other time, as we want to work in conjunction with the police were provided with the house allowance of housing. What plans do you have in future in terms of housing for the entire guard force? Do you have any plan so that the entire guard force will sit freely and comfortably, so that whenever they go to work, they are so comfortable than interacting with small issues, petty issues? Let them be comfortable like the police have done.
Thank you. I believe it's hard. Let me get one more point from this gentleman here. I'm so sorry. I know there are so many hands being raised at the moment. Go ahead.
Okay. My first question goes to the Nyumba Kumi.
Dr. Ndemo, go ahead.
My name is Joash Soita. I'm the branch secretary of this union in Nairobi. I want to get from you, how do you handle the Nyumba Kumi within the NSPD? Because we have got almost 200,000 guards, but they don't know anything to do with the Nyumba Kumi. How do you handle it in town here? The other question is about, I would like you to tell us something, because we were in State House and the president said himself that from today private security are under the Inspector General. In fact, he's stood under grade. But from 2016 up to date, we don't see any meeting that we have been called. We just see you doing things alone, and we are alone. This link that you have put together with us, that's why we are fighting. We are feeling guards, if they can be given guns, they can do this and that. We want this link. Can you tell us something on that?
Okay. Thank you for that. So I'll allow each of my panelists a minute each to respond to those some of the questions that they've been asked, and to give their final thoughts as well. I think I'll start from that side. Spokesperson, you begin, because the question was directed your way.
I would want to say that guards are very important persons to all of us, not only as police officers, but the whole nation. The first line of criminality many a times starts with the guards. The only difference is that you see, everything, even when you go to a supermarket, there are workers in a supermarket. There are also domestic workers at home, depending on regulations and who your employer is. You find, like, for example, most of the guard companies are private companies.
Okay.
They're not government companies, they're private companies, and these private companies are run by individuals. I would surprise you, KK security guards, that your starting salary and that of a policeman, you may find yourself earning more than the policeman. I would tell you that, and you may be surprised to find that. The only difference is that maybe the police has more job security, and maybe the police has more opportunities in growing. When I started working in 1993, I left a job where I was earning 4,300 shillings, and went and became a police constable earning 2,600 shillings. But I knew after a year or two, I was going to be promoted to become an inspector, depending on my education background at that particular time then. And then the progression continues depending on your objective. So you may not think that policemen earn so much, and you know them, they're your brothers and your sisters. The only thing is the projection, and then another thing, you are employees of a private organization, they are employees of the government.
What about the question on this end, spokesperson?
Yeah, the question is very simple. We work together in matters of security. But practically, they may not be employees under the Inspector General. Because the Inspector General is the head of the National Police Service, which is not a private entity, it's a government entity. They belong to members of private institutions. The Inspector General may not have control over their employers. But when it comes to security matters, we work together. And that is why we talk about community policing and institutions that work towards the same line. For example, the military is, for example, the defense forces. They are not private, they are government. But you see, our terms of employment as members of Kenya National Police and their terms of employment are different. And we cannot go questioning their terms of employment. So that is the position.
You feel that is the position
that
right now in regards
to
what you had to ask?
Yes, and many a times we have worked together.
Yes.
And that is why even when it comes to when security companies, for example, those ones that escort money, like KK security guards, they come for our support. And they come for our support because of we are armed and they are not. And they are not armed, and that is what it provides for.
Okay.
But my principle still remains the same, and I want to say this: having gun is not a solution. It is not a source of safety, and we must limit as much as possible to have guns in the hands of civilians because of control.
Thank you.
Of firearms, and even when it will be allowed that security guards would be armed, you can be sure it will not be given to individuals.
Okay.
It will be given to the security companies, and they will be highly controlled in the manner that it will be used.
Thank you. That's a good place to leave it. Tabitha, your final comment?
For me, what I will say is, one, we need to see each other as team members on the same side, working towards securing Kenya from all sorts of threats. Arming security guards or any other member of the population is not the only solution. So as we think of arming more people, let us also think about awareness so that people know what to do in the event of a mass shooting. Security people guarding certain institutions know what to do in the event that there is an attack. People know which numbers to call. We do not just have people going to donate blood when an incident happens, but this is something that is part of our culture. When we're raising our children, what do we tell them about being in public spaces, sending or receiving money from people on M-Pesa that they do not know? So we have to make security something that is part and parcel of everyone in the society. Something else that we need to do is to ensure that we have increased cooperation between the public and the government, so that when you see something on the ground, whether you're a security guard or you're just an ordinary citizen like me and you're able to give that information to the right people on time. Something else that we need to do is...
And finally, please.
The last thing...
Yes, go ahead.
The last thing is we need to know that terrorists on the other side will always be very organized, and we need to get our act together. So this can only be done through awareness campaigns that will involve everybody in the society, and the media and the government have to be on the same side. We have to speak on the same terms so that we make sure that we are able to seal all the loopholes that might be exploited to try and make our country insecure.
Okay, thank you. Important points that you've raised. Dr. Ndemo, give us your final thoughts.
Now, I think I would like to comment on the comments made by the government spokesman, so that we don't live here believing that there is no Nyumba Kumi. Conceptually, he described the functions of Nyumba Kumi very well, but he ended up saying it is not there. When the president...
He disagrees with that. You say he ended by saying it's not there.
He described on the characteristics of Nyumba Kumi, but he ended up saying it is not there.
He says no. Anyway, explain your point.
Well, that is how I heard it, and maybe some of the listeners...
Clarify, please.
So I want just to have a clarification so that we don't leave here
briefly,
with
please.
mixed feelings. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So there is Nyumba Kumi. It has a structure. It has membership of a given cluster, as described by the government spokesman, and there are functions to do. So if we say the only thing, I think I will agree with him, not the only thing, but as I said, conceptually, he just explained what Nyumba Kumi is. So it is not about 10 households, it is not 5, it is not 6, you know. It is just a manageable cluster that organizes itself and looks after its own security. That is the description of Nyumba Kumi.
Okay.
And there was an existing community policing which liaises with the police so that they can deal with the certain criminal matters. That works for the police. That is okay. But Nyumba Kumi is modeled on the African traditions of people coming together to solve their problems.
Thank you.
That is what
Thank you. Millicent, you want to come in as well?
We can't treat symptoms. If you treat the symptoms, the problems persists. The issue of arming more people, in my opinion, again, is treating the symptoms. As my sister has rightfully spoken, we need an elaborate system. This is systemic problem. If you fight the system and you don't look at it as a system and you only look at one structure, you miss the point. So therefore, we need to know that every time we are fighting this system of crime, terrorism, the system fights back. That's why we have emerging trends where we used to think that people will come in with gun, now they are coming with suicide bombers, where there were issues where, you know, you could probably find Nyumba Kumi or homemade solutions. The problems are becoming compounded because of our approach. So I think, as my sister has also said, Tabitha said the issue of cooperation, but I also want to say coordination. Stop hoarding information. Share information with the relevant persons. Don't think you have monopoly. Work with each other. And I think we need to work on our mindset because we are the mirror of the society. If we are condemning all the police, and of course we have some people who just have bad manners, and we have extrajudicial killings and people are not happy. If we don't work on our trust, confidence building, you can do all you want, but we people will never look at those institutions as legitimate.
Okay.
If we lack that legitimacy, then the trust and the confidence will not come back, and therefore, no matter what we do, we will always be lacking. Let us look at it as a system. Don't get stuck on, it's like the octopus. If you get stuck on one tentacle, the other tentacles are flapping, and your system will always be destabilized. Let's work for stability, so that we work together to improve safety and security. It is our responsibility, all of us. You have a unique role to play. Don't work only on the symptoms.
Thank you for that strong finish. And Eric Okeo, you have the last word.
Yeah, but please, you'll give me 1 more minute more because I didn't respond to an issue.
I'll give you 30, I'll give you 30 seconds more. Go ahead.
I live here better than I came, Waiga. From Ambassador Dr. Jiambo's comments, what do we do in the circumstances? And I will recruit Tabitha to come and be the link between our employees and us, that there certainly needs to be trust as we go forward. I also pick from Eunice that it must be broad spectrum. It cannot simply be about guns. It must be broad spectrum. But I do not know how else I need to emphasize that employers are saying, yes, we'll go that direction, but how do we go that direction in the presence of the current hitch of law, which not even a cabinet secretary can veto, only parliament which created it. Finally, and very, very finally, I come from a school of thought of transparency, myself, Wahiga. Mr. Omenge asked 2 positions that I hold and almost said, are they legal? Let me respond, it encourages. I started as a security guard, Mr. Omenge, maybe you don't know. I worked in factory guards as a guard. And worked very hard, and today I am a CEO. The disparity in remuneration in this sector truly exists. That disparity is an issue fully and squarely in the armpit of the board. And that is why this board has the Principal Secretary for Finance. Please, the Principal Secretary for Finance, who is the one who procures this service on behalf of government and says, to procuring and accounting officers, go for lowest bidder. And it has the Principal Secretary for Labor who says pay minimum wage, and Principal Secretary for Security who says provide security. We are sitting in a boardroom. These are issues we are administering. And then
I need you to be a final point. Yes?
I'm finalizing. I'm finalizing because I needed to make this clear. For Mr. Ndabwa, the Inspector General is also a member of the board, so that he is not away, he is with us in the board. The chair of Kenya Security Industry Association is an elective position that only the vote you get only by being a CEO.
Okay.
I encourage him to work hard to become a CEO one day, so that then he has ability to vote.
Okay.
Yeah, because
let me ask you this. Since you've said you want,
yes, and he can work hard and become.
Let me ask you this. He asked you whether you see a conflict of interest in the posts that you hold. Yes or no? We really are out of time.
No, I'm just finalizing.
Okay.
I am just
because
finalizing.
He wanted to know, do you
I
see
am
a
just
conflict?
finalizing.
Yes.
He asked a perfectly good question. I am answering it by way of also inspiring him. Yes. That if I was a security guard and I am a CEO today and national chair, so can he.
Okay.
And as soon as I was elected national chair of KSI, that is how I was gazetted by the cabinet secretary to represent KSI at the board.
Okay.
Because Parliament created a position for KSI.
Okay.
And again in the board, the position of vice chair is elective. The first schedule says members who elect a vice chair. They elected me unopposed. This one.
So in a nutshell, you see no conflict. That's all I'm saying. Yes.
No conflict
no
at
conflict.
all. Because
okay.
I represent employers, and 2 members represent employers.
Yes.
And 2 represent employees.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that's a conversation that we'll probably not take often because we really are out of time. But now we know. 30.
I cannot live here without saying something. I'm a fairly senior government officer, and this government policy that brought in Nyumba Kumi, so I cannot say it does not exist. What I'm saying is there is nobody called Nyumba Kumi.
Okay.
Huwezi kusema mimi ni Nyumba Kumi.
Okay.
Even if you are an official of that entire place where you are representing interest, where you get information on behalf of the members of that area, you are not called Nyumba Kumi. You don't go telling people I'm Nyumba Kumi. No, that is what I said, Daktari.
And that is what you wanted to clarify. Thank you so much to each of you. And let me, unfortunately, our time has run out. Thank you to everyone who's sending us messages. I believe you've had a chance to understand the perspective of each of the guests here who are part of the panel and the audience as well. Charles Owino, Tabitha Mwangi, Dr. Ndemo, Millicent Otieno, and Eric Okeo. Thank you for joining us or joining me today on this panel. And to the audience as well, asante sana for patiently waiting and for sharing your concerns, your questions with us. And to everyone who stayed up at night at home, tuned into this broadcast, the first Citizen TV Town Hall of 2019, asante sana as well. Let's keep engaging on the different platforms that we have, social media and our SMS line as well. But for now, it's good night, and we'll see you again next week.
Thank you very much, Wahiga, for that engaging conversation on the Town Hall session. This is the Monday Report, where your voice comes first. Speaking of your voice, we had asked you earlier whether guards should be armed. I want to run you through your feedback really fast. The question on the Twitter poll was, should private security guards in Kenya be armed? We are running this for an entire day. So far, it hasn't changed. No, say 71% say no, 29% say yes. Let me run you through some of your feedback real quick. Kipchumba Murkomen says excellent discussion at Citizen Kenya on security, especially the role of Nyumba Kumi in the promotion of security. He cites the Tanzania issue that was handled by Mashirima Kapombe. Soita Kakasa says having a close relationship with private security providers, they believe they should be armed but under structured, knowledgeable and experienced training to curb terrorism. And we have Kate Bask who says, I agree that we arm our guards, but after undergoing a rigorous vetting and training exercise, we don't want another shooting spree along our streets. And Wamkumbwa says, before we actually arm these guards, can we do a market survey, especially in the private sector, to find out if these malls are willing to pay for armed guards? We are thinking of the product before the consumer. One last one from Frank Wasonga here, who says, not a good idea at all. Have we run short of ideas that we can even think of giving firearms to private security guards? Let the security agencies reflect more on how to deal with terrorism. That's your feedback to the Monday Report. That's where we wrap it up. My name is Trevor Mbija. Always a pleasure having you with us, and on behalf of the entire team that made this possible, Wahiga Mwaura, the Daystar University, Mashirima Kapombe, live from Tanzania. Thank you and good night. Until next week, we'll probably come to a town hall near you. Stay with Citizen TV.